So, chatting on Twitter the other day, I was asked how I produce features such as this on a nose cone, given that they're round and have to conform to the shape of the nose cone. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Stay tuned. Okay, so we start with a nose cone. Now in this particular case, I've got basically two cones and a rounded tip, and I'm going to add a feature onto the main body of the nose and extend down onto the side skirt. So this is a pretty complex shape, and I'll show you what I'm going to add. It is the portion of the umbilical that adds onto the capsule. So as you can see, when I create my final product, I'm going to fuse those two together, and that'll create a single object that'll have all the features. And in this particular application, I've done this for a whole number of features. Okay, so RCSs, some various miscellaneous panels, radiators, antennas, and so on. Okay, so this is something you can do repetitively as required. So for now, I'm going to look at just that umbilical section. And yes, there's a cover that goes on there to connect the command and the service modules, but we're not going to worry about that. Okay, so the first step we do, I'm actually going to take the capsule out of the way, just to concentrate on this, is we create the pad object. Okay, so now if we look at this front on, it is, a fairly complex shape, but it's just, a sketch that we can extrude out, and it's perfectly square. Now at this point, it doesn't conform to the shape of the capsule at all. So what we do is we create a groove. Okay, and let's rotate this a little bit. And you can see now not only does it have the general shape of the nose cone, but it's also rounded as required. So how do we do that? Well, let's look at the sketch that we use for the groove. Okay, so it's upside down. Let's fix that. Okay, and let's look to the side just a little bit. Okay, so what we're doing is we're creating a groove section that we're going to rotate around the vertical. Okay, and it has to be a closed shape because that's what you're going to be doing the groove with. And you have as the inside shape the portion that you're going to cut. Okay. So as we do the groove, we've now got that basic shape. And we can do this multiple times and keep adding features to it. So we add another pad, groove it again in a similar way, and now we've got that conformal shape. Okay, so again, looking at the sketch, it's going to be revolved around the vertical axis, and it's going to do a 360-degree sweep and give it that rounded edge that we need to make it part of our project. Okay, so we can keep doing this. So we add another piece on the top, add another groove. Okay, chamfer that top piece a few times. Okay, so this is all well and good, but we have all this portion on the inside. Given that our nose cone is hollow, we don't want all of that. Well, the solution to that is another groove. And in this case, the edge of that, that line is going to be the inside cut. Okay, so if we look at that groove, we've now got our final piece. So, nice and simple. It is a little bit different way of thinking about the feature, but it does allow you to create it on its own in pieces. When you're doing this sort of approach, you're going to have to do this as independent pieces for each of the features. And then, like I said, you can do a Boolean combination of them afterwards. Okay, so one comment on that. If we bring back the CSM, where are we? There we are. Okay, so one of the quirks about FreeCAD, and it's got to do with the underlying Open Cascade library, is it doesn't like things right on the edge. So when you're doing this final groove, okay, that line should be slightly inside the edge of the nose cone. So what you're doing is you're extending the piece a little bit into the nose itself. It doesn't have to be far. A fraction of a millimeter is fine. But you will find if you line it up perfectly, like you would with some other CAD packages, then you're going to have some bizarre errors and you're not going to understand why. So just back it into the piece just that little bit and things will merge fine. Another interesting thing to consider is actually the shape of the grooves. Okay, so in this case, we just have a straight line for our groove because it's a conical cone. If you are using something like an ogive or parabola, then this would have to be a matching ogive or parabola offset from the edge by an appropriate amount. Okay, so we'll talk about generation of these in an upcoming video as I write a feature for the Rocket Workbench that can generate it. So hopefully you'll see that soon. So that's it for me today. With this technique, you can build some pretty complex designs and yeah, the sky's the limit. So have fun.